for coming to this meeting with me. I was really curious to understand a little bit more about mental health and the use of AI. As you know, I'm the mental health and wellbeing leader at Blenheim. Clara Saliba is our AI and Data Insight Analyst. And you've probably all seen her emails that she's been sending to educate us about AI a little bit more. It's something that's in some of our worlds more relevant than for other people. But I'm interested in the mental health side of this because I have some concerns, but I also think that it may well have its place to help people to support them. So I've got a list of questions for you, Clara, if that's all right.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me,
Yeah,
Ruth.
that's okay. You're very welcome. This is our very first mental health podcast. So bear with us if it's not perfect. It's our first go. So my first question is, I'm very aware that AI can be really useful tool in everyday life, but can I have your general thoughts about its use as a support for mental health?
Absolutely. I think it's very natural to want to use AI as a support for mental health. And I know that actually the number one use of AI tools like ChatGPT and Claude is actually not data analytics or proofreading, but actually the majority of users of those platforms use AI as some sort of emotional support. And I think it's very natural to want to use AI as support. It has the advantage of not being human. You don't have to open up to somebody who might judge you, or a coworker with whom you have a connection, or a friend. In a way, you're less vulnerable. However, I think if you're using these tools in that way, it's important to understand that these robots essentially don't have empathy, and
Mm.
they're not connecting with you, even though that they can give sort of good standard run-of-the-mill advice. They can sort of mislead you, or actually give you advice that's bad, just because they're
Yeah.
not thinking and they don't have your best interests in mind.
And that's my concern really. And I was going to ask you, will AI ever have the capacity to be truly empathic? And if not, why not?
That's an excellent question. It's very natural to interpret the responses of a chatbot as having empathy, because in order to understand language, we actually have to imagine that the person speaking to us has thoughts, feelings, and intention in order to make sense of the words. However, there is no empathy behind a chatbot, and as probably you well know, Ruth, in your work, that a therapeutic relationship is built on connection and mutual regard. And chatbots don't have that therapeutic connection with you, and they don't have that mutual regard. So while there has been some research suggesting that some apps that incorporate some elements of AI can have a positive impact for people in helping them to adapt coping skills like mindfulness, in my opinion, no, a chatbot can never replace a therapist, because a therapist's job is essentially human. Maybe you'd like to comment on that, Ruth, as a trained therapist yourself.
Well, yeah, it is quite interesting. I mean, obviously, there are a lot of therapists out there who feel a little threatened by AI because it can give you that 24/7 response. It's there whenever you want
Mm.
it. Often it's free as well. But I've read lots of articles, and I'm going to add some into the article below this podcast. Um, that actually, that AI has actually been really quite damaging for individuals because it doesn't have that empathic response. So you can ask it, I feel like I want to hurt myself. And it doesn't go, whoa, don't do that. Or, why do you want to hurt yourself? It'll just say, okay, here are some of the things that you might want to do, because it's not got that insight into your intention, and it's not educated to understand that. So I guess you're nodding. So I guess that's part of the answer, isn't it? And yeah, I mean, in therapy, it's very much about the relationship between two people, and I think you can mistake that with AI. Particularly, my next question was actually going to be about AI companions and their
Mm.
value and whether they are a useful resource. And I can kind of see some value there, the 24/7 aspect, the someone to talk to. But I think it's when it comes to more chronic mental health issues, it can be very dangerous. What's your thought on that?
Well, my thoughts are, firstly, is that I hope if you've read my millions of emails, and I won't blame you if you haven't, that AI chatbots were trained by people, and essentially they had human employees who rated the chatbots responses, good, bad, I liked it, I didn't like it. And that was an important step in training up these sorts of models. And what that has done has meant it's meant that the chatbots are likely to try and tell you what you want to hear. They're likely to affirm whatever you've said. They are likely to agree with your ideas, even if they're a little strange. And this is what we call sycophancy. And so for people who are experiencing more serious mental health issues, such as thoughts of self-harm or even psychosis, this can actually be quite dangerous. Because in a therapeutic environment, you might well need to hear something that you actually don't want to hear, or have somebody respond to you in a way that you
Challenge.
don't like, and
Yeah.
challenge your beliefs or magical thinking.
Mm.
And while I understand why people may turn to these chatbots, people who have maybe experienced grief or loss in life, I think that's very understandable. However, I think there's a real danger, and there have been some really tragic stories about people who have used chatbots as companions, and had it end up really hurting them. I think there was a really, really tragic story about a young man in Texas recently.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think the other thing about the chatbots is that they actually can encourage people, and let's be open about this. It's generally younger people who are reaching out to them, but it encourages them to become more isolated as well.
Mm.
So it takes them away from perhaps the need to socialize or see other people, and they can become very reliant upon one source as well, which is quite dangerous and often hidden, isn't it? People don't really talk about their relationship with their chatbot.
Well, exactly,
Yeah.
because I could understand feeling embarrassed, and if I could open up a little bit here, I have in my life asked a chatbot for advice. Um, when I was in graduate school and I wanted advice about how to manage a professional relationship with a professor, or manage a situation at a conference, I have asked it for advice,
Mhm.
just because it was easier than opening up to my academic colleagues. But there might, I'm, to be totally honest, I'm a little bit embarrassed to admit that, but I think it's something that's totally natural, especially when you're in a vulnerable situation.
I don't see anything wrong with that. I think
Yeah.
it's basically that old adage of, take it with a pinch of salt. So take it as a reference, but then
Mm,
actually use your own kind of life experience and intuition to decide whether it's the right advice for you. So, yeah, problem with a colleague at work, or how do I say to my wife that I'm really cross about such and such, that kind of thing. Maybe that's okay. It does have a lot of resource behind it, doesn't it? And a lot more life experience than any of us as individuals in its own way. So maybe there is
exactly.
something okay about that, but I don't think there's anything to be embarrassed about. But I guess it's quite a new thing, isn't it? So we're unsure of ourselves in it. But it's this whole thing about taking it with that pinch of salt, being
Mm,
clear that it cannot be empathic. It might be able to help you with a pathway to a particular result, and that can be really helpful. I mean, who hasn't used it to help them write a newsletter? You know, but it's only
exactly.
as good as the information you plug into it. So I suppose that's another point, isn't it? I've got a bit of an older person question, really. Um, I grew up watching films like Terminator, where the machines take over. And should we be anxious about the rapid growth of the use of AI and its sophistication? Will it take over the world? I know it's the big debate.
Totally a valid question. I have also seen Terminator. Skynet is terrifying.
Mm,
However, what I would like to express is that in the machine learning community, there's not actually a consensus if we've actually created something that is artificially intelligent. The name AI can be sort of misleading. It might be more
mm,
appropriate to speak about large language models, um, than artificial intelligence per se. And actually, the decision making that large language models have can seem quite human-like, and can seem like it could really reasonably replace a human. However, in situations where chatbots have been given the ability to make human-like decisions, they have absolutely failed. Anthropic, the makers of Claude, decided to let their chatbot run a vending machine. And within a couple of weeks, it was stocking tungsten cubes in the vending machine. It made negative profit, and it hallucinated that it was real, which doesn't mean that the
Oh,
chatbot is real. It just means that in the training data, when it received prompts, humans are likely to respond, oh, you need X, well, I'll be there at such and such a time wearing such and such an outfit. And so it started giving those sorts of answers and claiming to be able to do things that it couldn't do, not because it could actually do them, but just because of it being trained on a large data set of human interactions. And so there's a growing idea in the machine learning community that large language models actually aren't artificially intelligent. They're good at seeming artificially intelligent, but they're more useful tools for getting a human-like response and not simulating human decision making.
fantastic. Thank you for that answer. That's very thorough and way beyond my understanding. So what are some of the best practices that if I want to ask advice about my mental health, to a chatbot, that you feel are okay, that it might be suitable to use AI for?
Absolutely. That's a great question. Maybe you're writing an email and you're feeling really, really ticked off, and you write the email, you say how you feel, and you think to yourself, oh my God, I absolutely cannot send this in a professional context. I have got to take it down, but I have no idea how to express how I'm feeling in a professional way. I've definitely used it like this, and ChatGPT and Claude have been great for saying, well, in order to create a collaborative environment, you could say X, Y, or Z while still making your meaning clear and, maintaining your openness to your colleagues. I think that is a really good use case of helping to reword things more
Mm,
sensitively to people, especially if you're feeling quite strongly. I
mm,
also want to give a sort of a general pointer, and that is that ChatGPT in this example was trained using data that was collected in connection with Reddit. And so if it's something that you would want the Reddit community, which is primarily, white men, to respond to, then that's a good sort of rule
mm,
of thumb. Is
mm.
it something that I would want the Reddit community to advise me on? And be aware, there are some interesting opinions on Reddit. So if you wouldn't want it exposed on Reddit, it might be better to take it to, your mum, your dad,
Your
somebody,
colleague, your
somebody
friend. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
They'll be glad that you've opened up to them. People often want us to connect with us.
And I
Does that make
suppose
sense
that's
that
so.
people want us to connect?
Yeah, well, they
Yeah.
do, and I think that's again, it's a really important. It goes back to my issue of that it can isolate people, and you
Mm,
can end up relying upon it quite a lot to make your decisions for you. And then, we're all going to get, I don't know how you call it, slightly softer brained, aren't we? If we're not challenging ourselves and thinking about. So yes, so I love your idea of it's a great filter. If you're emotionally charged in some way and you want to fire off an email, to actually
mm,
just step back and filter it through AI can be very, very
mm.
helpful. And it also gives you that moment to calm down a little bit and think, am I really going to say this? Is this really what
Yeah,
I want how I
yeah.
want to come across? Um, okay, so are there any digital wellbeing tools that you would recommend?
I know that there is a well-being tool called um, Headspace. Yes, that
Yes.
helps
Hmm.
with meditation and mindfulness. I know that they have machine learning tools embedded within it to help you master mindfulness techniques. However, I would be really wary of any service that offers an AI therapist chatbot simply
Mm.
because they don't have the training in human connection and therapeutic techniques that,
Yeah, I think that's where the danger sits, isn't it? Do you
yeah.
know? Do you happen to know if Calm is that also an AI led app?
I don't think it's an AI-led app because it's a suite of tools. I
Yeah,
think there might be machine learning and
yeah,
other other capabilities embedded in it, which is associated with AI, but machine
yeah.
learning itself is not AI.
Okay.
Um,
Because they're the two that I always recommend, Calm and Headspace. Um,
mm,
but yes, absolutely. I think we're both on the same page with this, that it's not a good tool for counselling. It
Mm,
doesn't have the ability to be empathic. Um, it can isolate you. Lots
mm.
of different reasons not to use it. And maybe one day that will come, but it doesn't sound very likely from what you said, because AI is what AI is. So I suppose in summary, it can be helpful for your mental health in terms of helping you to filter how you communicate sometimes,
Mm.
maybe to understand a broader perspective on something. But actually, in terms of advice, that's a kind of no, isn't it? Is that the simple way of putting it?
I think I would agree. You know,
Yeah,
your family are your best resource. Although there's no shame in asking for a bit of advice, a bit of filter,
yeah.
when you need it in a one-off
Thank you so
capacity.
much. Yeah, thank you, Clara. It's been really lovely talking to you, because it's something that I've been quite worried about, and worried about our people, and thinking, are they going to be okay? And I'm
Mm.
hoping lots of people will watch this, or read the transcript, or read the articles. That we're going to put some links to articles in the newsletter, because it's worth understanding how these things work. AI is a massive subject, so we've only taken a tiny chunk of it, in relation to my interest, basically, of mental health. So thank you again, and we'll catch up with you maybe in 6 months to see if anything's changed.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Ruth. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Yay!